Today on NFL Draft by Chat Sports, I'm going to be breaking down my top 10 list of wide receiver draft prospects in this year's NFL draft class. I got my top 10 pass catchers, and honestly, I think that this wide receiver class, particularly at the top, is a little bit better than it's being advertised right now. Really excited to talk about some of these wide receivers today with you here on the show. But before we get into the content today, make sure you give me a follow at Jack_Sperry on X. Going to be putting out a bunch of film analysis stuff on there, positional rankings. All that great stuff is going to be put on my X account this offseason. So if you want more daily NFL draft content from me, you can find me at Jack_Sperry. So we'll start with my number 10 wide receiver here on my list, and I'll go with Jaylen Noel out of Iowa State. Now, Noel is somebody that's a little bit undersized, and he is not the biggest wide receiver in the world, but man, he is a very polished vertical threat that can really run routes. He's got really fluid hips, so he can get in and out of his breaks extremely quickly. Very fluid athlete. He's got good ball skills, great ball tracking down the field. And I think immediately from the slot, Noel is going to be able to be a really, really good vertical threat from the slot for an NFL football team. And his performance at the Senior Bowl in Mobile this year reminded me a lot of Jayden Reed's current deep threat for the Green Bay Packers. And, of course, Reed has become a super explosive player with Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur there in Green Bay. And I think Noel could be a similar type of impact. Now, like Reed, I don't know if Noel's ceiling is as high as some of the other guys are going to be talking about in this class. I don't know if he has the acceleration or the long speed, the elite caliber, movement ability that you see from some of the top-end blue-chip caliber guys. Plus, he doesn't have the best functional strength, and I think he's probably a slot-only guy. But I could certainly see him being an explosive piece for any offense out there that wants to have a vertical threat from the slot. So shout out your guy down there in the comments section. Who is your sleeper wide receiver in the 2025 NFL Draft? Who's somebody that you think is going to go late day 2 or even on day 3 that you think is going to be a stud in the National Football League? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know who your sleeper receiver is in this year's class. Number 9, I'm going to go with the Longhorn receiver here. Super, super fast, Isaiah Bond. And now I think that Jaylen Noel is actually a better player right now than Bond is. I think that he's a more fluid route runner. I think that he's more technically refined, but Bond has the elite caliber, acceleration, and long speed that you look for in a true speed threat and yak type of threat. Now, I think that, Bond has a little bit of work to do in terms of his ball tracking ability down the field, making contested catches down the field, that sort of thing. He doesn't have the best catch radius. He doesn't have a great contested catch rate. If the corner can stick with him, he's probably not coming down with the football, but he does have that really, really great acceleration and long speed, which really put his ceiling super, super high as a vertical threat and a home run hitter. He does have the hip fluidity to be able to move quickly throughout his routes. And, I think that the low-end comp here is that, if the ball tracking stuff and the catching and all this different stuff in the contested catch rate doesn't get better, he could end up being Jalen Reagor. He could really be maybe a little bit better than that. Reagor has been a complete disaster out of TCU in the league, but he could also be Jalen Waddle. Like, Waddle is not the biggest guy in the world, but he is an absolute speed demon. That is what Isaiah Bond is. Waddle's a great route runner. Bond still has a little bit of work to get to that spot, but he's got the potential to be that Jalen Waddle type of explosive playmaker that we see with the Miami Dolphins there with Mike McDaniel. And, I think that Bond has the higher ceiling and then Noel probably has the higher floor. I think they're both pretty darn good players, but if you're looking for more of the higher upside play, I think that Isaiah Bond is the guy for you. And if you want the more sure thing, I would probably go with Jaylen Noel on day 2. Then we get to Jack Bech here, who I also have a day 2 grade on here out of TCU, and a different type of receiver now. Now we get to like the bigger receiver, run blocker, super reliable hands, 50-50 ball winner down the field, and Bech just catches everything. Incredible catch radius, and something that's underrated about Bech because he is a bigger receiver is he's got quick feet. Now, he doesn't have the best hip fluidity and ability to get in and out of his cuts, but he's got very quick feet. He's got a really good ability to run the type of routes that he runs. Now, he does have a little bit of a limited route tree, so he's not going to be able to run the full gambit of routes, But the routes that he does run, he runs very effectively. He's got great hands. He's going to be the best run blocker out of anybody in this class. So the Shanahan, McVay, West Coast style of offense guys are going to really like this guy's skill set. And, some people say he's kind of like Puka Nacua, and I can see where they're coming from with that comparison, but I'm going to go Jawan Jennings here from the San Francisco 49ers. I think Jennings really showed his skill set as maybe not the most athletic guy in the world, but he's a bigger receiver. He's a good route runner. He's got great hands. He comes down with everything. I think Jack Bech really pairs well here as a pro comp to Jawan Jennings. So I don't think Bech is going to be like a number one receiver in the National Football League like Puka Nacua has proven to be. It's very tough to be a type of receiver like him. But I think Bech is going to find a home in a Shanahan or McVay-style West Coast system that really uses his skill set to the max. Then we get to Jayden Higgins, number 7 on my list. I also have a day 2 grade on him, and I am more of a round 2 grade. I think it's more early day 2 than late day 2 here for Higgins. And I really like Higgins' skill set because he brings the rare ability to have really fluid hips, and he's a really fluid athlete with the size that he brings to the table. He's got great route running technique, and that's something you just don't really see a whole lot from guys with this kind of body type. Now, he doesn't have the best long speed in the world. He's not going to be a burner down the field, and actually for somebody that's as big as Higgins is, I don't think his run blocking is really all that good either. Functional strength could certainly, you could use some work as well. But I think that, whenever you have a receiver that has the big body but is also a really fluid athlete and can run routes the way that Higgins does, I think that he's a diet T. Higgins. Now, Higgins, I think, is a bit stronger. He's going to be, he's a little bit more of a goon, as Mike Tomlin would like to say, with these bigger type of receivers that are super physical. But Jayden Higgins is certainly of that ilk, kind of like a Drake London as well, where they're not like a super great athlete where they're going to just burn you down the field at that size, but Higgins is certainly somebody that's going to beat you in the intermediate level of the field. He can catch balls, contested catches in the end zone, as in your red zone packages. I think he's going to be a really, really good receiver in this league from day one. Then another guy that I really like as well as a round 2 guy, and maybe even a late first round guy, is Elic Ayomanor out of Stanford. And, I think that Ayomanor takes everything that Jayden Higgins does and just takes it up just a little bit more. I really like how fluid Ayomanor is as an athlete at his size. He's got terrific size. He can absolutely bully people down the field in 50-50 ball situations. I think that his functional strength is better than Higgins's is. So, you look at Ayomanor and you look at Higgins, and these two guys are very similar types of receivers because they don't have elite long speed. I actually think Ayomanor's long speed is better than Higgins's. But like I said, I think that Elic does things just a little bit better than Higgins does, and I really liken him to Keenan Allen, who was really, really one of the best big route runners in the National Football League for a very, very long time. Now, obviously Allen made most of his bread in the slot. I don't know if Ayomanor's going to be playing the slot. He could certainly play both in the slot and outside. He's a good enough route runner to do both. But when I look at Ayomanor's film, it looks a lot like prime Keenan Allen to me, and that gets me really excited about his future. Then we get to number 5 here, and these are my round 1 grades at the wide receiver position this year. And we're going to start with Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, who I think is just a very safe, very solid wide receiver prospect. I think he's really good after the catch. He's got great playmaking instincts. He's got super reliable hands. The acceleration is really, really good, so it really helps out his route running. He runs beautiful routes. Now, I do think he might be, not the fastest guy in the world. He's not a burner down the field. He's not a true vertical threat. I do think for his size, he's an underwhelming run blocker. I see a lot of people say he's a great run blocker. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that after watching his film from this past season. And he doesn't have a ton of experience playing on the outside. I think he can survive on the outside, but he played most of his college career in the slot, and that's really where he specializes. I really liken him to Jackson Smith-Njigba from the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I was lower on JSN coming out of the draft when he was coming out of Ohio State. A lot of people had him as like a top 10, top 5 caliber wide receiver. I didn't think he had the juice athletically to really be that type of wide receiver and have that caliber of grade. But like JSN, Egbuka's super solid all the way around. Good size, really good rack ability, just a really, really good football player. And I think that, Ohio State has certainly proven that they can churn out great wide receivers year in and year out. Then number 4 on my list, I'm going to go with another Texas Longhorn here, and Matthew Golden whose film is just super explosive. And this guy definitely has number one receiver upside, and I think that we showed a lot of his skill set there with Steve Sarkisian in Austin this year. I think that unlike Isaiah Bond, who has had some issues with drops, that doesn't track the ball out in space the greatest, I think Golden actually does those things very, very well. He had some great deep ball receptions where he had to track the ball in the air multiple times. He's got the elite acceleration that you look for. The vertical threat ability is certainly there. The ball skills that we talked about. I really like his route running ability actually a lot too, and the long speed is certainly there to be a home run hitter in the league as well. Now, he's not going to be a run blocker. He doesn't necessarily have the play strength to dominate cornerbacks, in the screen game as a blocker or anything like that. And then I think that he needs to get better versus press coverage in the league, but I certainly think this guy has number one receiver upside, and I think he reminds me a lot on film of Devontae Smith. Now, he's bigger than Devontae, but I think that they have a very similar skill set where they're both super explosive. They both can track the ball deep down the field. They're true deep threats. Great route runners. I really like what I see from Matthew Golden on film, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being in the top 3 receivers taken in this year's draft class. But I really like the top 3 receivers in this class, guys. And we'll start with Luther Burden III, who, if he goes top 10, I'm not going to bat an eye. I love this kid out of Missouri. I think he is an absolutely special playmaker. We've already made him a Sperry Psycho of the day here on the channel. And, I just think that, he's probably the closest thing to Malik Neighbors in this draft. Malik was better than Luther is, but you got the elite acceleration, matched with some really good ball skills, the ability to make tough catches over the middle of the field and towards the sideline. He is electric with the ball in his hands out in space. He's going to be a dynamic playmaker in this league from day one. And, just like Malik Neighbors, I think Luther Burden III combines route running with playmaking instincts, with the ability to make tough catches. And, he's just a complete package from somebody that's a little bit undersized. So I think that Luther Burden III is more than worth a top 15 pick. I have a top 15 grade on him. And, don't let the decreased production in 2024 fool you. This guy's going to be a stud at the next level. Number 2, I got Travis Hunter out of Colorado. And, Hunter is a phenomenal wide receiver prospect. And, if he was just coming out as a receiver and you didn't have the upside as a corner, along with the wide receiving ability, he would be a top 10 pick, in my opinion. He's got incredible ball skills, elite acceleration. He's got a really good ability to get out in open space and make people miss. He's one of the most fluid athletes in this entire class, if not the best overall athlete in the entire class. His route running technique, I think, is better than maybe some people give him credit for. And then the long speed is certainly there as well. So if you want him to be a short threat, an intermediate threat, or a vertical threat, he can do that. He's got a little bit of a lighter frame, so he's not going to really bring the size component that you look for in a true number one. But he certainly brings everything else to the table that makes him a special prospect. I'm going to compare him to Odell Beckham Jr. Because it's a very similar kind of skill set. And, I think that you look at a guy like Travis Hunter, who is a little bit lighter, but can make incredible catches outside of his frame, gets open all the time, incredible acceleration. It's definitely warranted that he should be taken in the top 10 if he does declare as a wide receiver. Then my number 1 wide receiver here, and this is, approaching, the Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., Jamar Chase type of category for me. I absolutely love Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona. I think that he just combines everything that you want in your number 1 wide receiver. He's not only got incredible size to be able to go up and probably have the best catch radius out of anybody in this class, win 50-50 balls at the point of attack, either down the sideline, in the red zone, or over the middle of the field. But he's also a super fluid athlete. Gets open all the time. Great technique as a route runner. And then he pairs all of that with some really, really good yard run after the catch ability. I mean, people this size just should not be able to move the way that Tetairoa McMillan moves. It looks different on film. Now, I will say, for a guy as strong as he is and as big as he is, I think he's an underwhelming run blocker. But listen, man, he's playing wide receiver to catch the football, all right? So that's the most important job. And in terms of that job, he does everything the way you want him to do it, heading into the league at a star quality level. And for me, he reminds me a lot of a young AJ Green, man. And, that's why I'm going to make him today's Sperry Psycho of the day. Mr. Tetairoa McMillan is an absolute psycho if there ever was one because he is big. He's got great route running ability. He runs after the catch with great playmaking instincts. And then he's got the size to be able to go up there, be a ball hawk, absolutely bully people in the red zone, down the sideline, and over the middle of the field. He is the complete package at the wide receiver position in this year's NFL draft class, in my opinion. And I think that he should absolutely go in the top 10, at least. If not, New England Patriots definitely give this guy a look because he is today's Sperry Psycho of the day. All right, now let's talk about which guy you think is going to be the number one receiver in this class. I think Tetairoa McMillan is awesome. He's my number one guy in this class. But do you like Travis Hunter more? Do you like Luther Burden the third the more? Do you like somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Type TM for T-Mac, TH for Travis Hunter, LB for Luther Burden, or O for other. And if you choose other, let me know which receiver you prefer down there in the comment section. Now, today was a top 10 list, and, there's more than just 10 good receivers in this class. So I do want to give some honorable mentions here to some very good players. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss is a very intriguing player to me. Excited to see how he tests at the Combine this year. I think Xavier Restrepo is a very safe slot wide receiver option that's going to be a really, really good player in this league from day one. Certainly worth a day two pick. Tez Johnson out of Oregon had a really good Senior Bowl week, a little bit slight. And some people think he's Tank Dell. He's not Tank Dell, but he's still very good. They get Jalen Royals, another slot option. Savion Williams is a very intriguing yak threat, but he's not a really complete receiver right now. He's a little bit of a project. And then Kobe Hudson out of UCF is a sleeper to keep your eye on. Really, really good route runner. And even though he's not the best athlete in the world, he does an awesome job getting open deep down the field with the way he runs routes. I'm a big fan of Kobe Hudson's, and I think he's going to be a steal for whoever drafts him this year. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's edition of NFL Draft by Chat Sports. Again, guys, you can follow me at Jack_Sperry for more NFL Draft content over there on X. And don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already to join us here on NFL Draft by Chat Sports. We got a bunch of great Combine coverage coming your way here with the Combine right around the corner. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, peace out.